You're listening to the RM Podcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Welcome to yet again another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian, and
Keith Cheatham.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic, wonderful show. We got a lot of good stuff tonight. Ooh, it's going to be a good
Do
show.
we?
I have a feeling. I have an inkling. It's going to be really.
Where that word came from.
Actually,
Inkling.
Tonight's gonna be a good
I hate
night.
that song.
Well, you
I
said
can't
you had a
I
feeling.
know.
That's what you get.
I just can't stand that.
Don't say
daggone
trigger
song.
phrases that make random things pop into my head.
I'm sorry.
Trigger phrases.
That is
Not triggered as in like.
See, it made Sean sick.
got a hairball.
I meant. I have a very sporadic mind, so anything can set it off. You say something, and
Look,
then I link it to other things. That's
I
just how
no.
It's like that though. It's
Yeah.
like trigger phrase.
Yeah,
I
there's
like that.
nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, isn't that like
Yeah.
that's in her culture? What is it? You're triggered. So
Yeah.
you
Well,
had,
no, I
had a
didn't mean-
triggered
I didn't-
phrase.
I've
I
heard
didn't
that
mean it-
word a lot.
yeah, I
I've
didn't
just
mean
never
it
heard
like
trigger
that.
phrase.
Well, here's the thing.
You
But
didn't
whoever
trigger me like
said
offensively. You just triggered my.
true.
Yeah.
And I guess being triggered is we take it as a negative connotation, but I
It
guess
doesn't
you
have
could
to
be
be.
triggered happily.
Yeah, there's
You
a
know?
lot of positive
Triggers.
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 Yeah. You can always be.
I just want everybody said I wanted to say it.
I think of
Triggers.
those. What are those bugs that you get in the
Chiggers?
woods?
Chiggers.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
But I'm
Chigger
afraid if we
trigger.
keep going, we might stumble upon a word that
That's,
gets us
word-
canceled.
Yeah, we're not allowed to say
and I don't
that
even
one.
want to flirt with that word.
I don't either.
So let's just move on.
No
Got a
territory.
great show.
Nagger.
Packed.
Again, you make me think of South Park where he's like doing the Jeopardy or whatever.
No,
and-
Wheel of Fortune.
or Wheel of Fortune, and it has like N blank GGER,
Yeah.
and it was like,
That's good.
sorry, the word was nagger. So then like he's
Everybody's-
ostracized. Yeah, everybody's
Yeah.
like mad.
But no,
it's-
I hate that song with a passion.
Yeah.
It just takes me back to
that the
college.
Black Eyed Peas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Will I Am. Oh, it's terrible. It's a terrible song. It was popular on the radio though. But
Fergie Ferg.
oh gosh,
Yeah,
what is that? Oh
Black
gosh.
Eyed Peas.
I'm just saying London Bridge. My London,
Oh,
London
no,
Bridge.
no. See, I wouldn't go that far.
That's a negative trigger.
That one, yeah. That I don't like that one. We could do without that
Yeah.
one.
All right, we can move on.
Yeah.
So I was gonna throw out another one, but I
Today's Bill Murray's birthday.
Oh, it is,
wow,
isn't
yeah.
it?
I wanted to change subjects.
That was no. That's
But
a
it is.
good
It is.
thing. That's
Today's
a
his
talk
birthday,
about a
yeah.
happy trigger right there.
Well, we get into a lot of different things on the show, and sometimes we don't really mention
Excuse me.
things like Bill Murray brings all of us a lot of joy. We
Yes.
all are all Bill
Yeah.
Murray fans,
Yes.
so I think it's sometimes fun to just
Absolutely.
acknowledge that someone we enjoy in Hollywood that doesn't actually aggravate us
Yeah.
on a constant basis. It's his birthday today.
I think there's literally one person on earth that doesn't like Bill Murray, and I'm married to her.
Are
That
you
is- that's
serious?
crazy.
She cannot stand Bill
How
Murray.
does she not like Bill Murray?
I don't know.
I have no idea. She
anyone
thinks
who
he
doesn't
looks like a
Bill
creeper.
Murray.
She said he's a
No, his
creepy
brother.
guy.
His brother looks like a creeper.
Hey, that's the reason.
I've seen his son.
He's a fan of
obviously,
Louisville.
with
Okay.
Louisville,
His,
but
his
Oh,
brother
that's his
was,
son. That's right, not his
the
brother.
guy
That's
in
his
Wayne's
son.
World, the arcade owner.
that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he looks like a
Yes,
creeper.
he does.
You know what?
He looks like a
Happy
creeper.
birthday, Bill.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all.
Yep.
The
the
man
fun
who,
times
who
you bring us.
crashes wedding parties, bowling parties,
Photo bombs.
accidentally broke a guy's nose with a beer bottle.
Yep.
I mean,
Well,
I would kind of like
He was a zombie.
Yeah, that was
He
a great
survived
movie.
Groundhog Day.
He was in Louisville too, even before his son was.
He's still.
He didn't they
He
filmed
frequents-
Stripes here.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
filmed some
Yeah.
stripes in Fort Knox and
Yeah.
around Louisville, and I actually thought he did
And?
another film in Louisville.
And
But I would have to Google it.
well, this has nothing to do with Louisville. I'm just saying, and
Mm.
Go ahead.
We should be seeing him in a month or two,
What?
returning to the theater
Oh,
screen.
yes,
in
indeed.
glorious
We
fashion.
can one
Trigger
can only
phrase.
hope.
Ghostbusters.
Afterlife. Oh.
I'm so excited for that movie. I mean, I love Bill Murray for a lot of things, but that
Yeah.
was, I think, the first thing I was introduced to Bill Murray in, and I love that movie, and
Yeah.
I love all the people in that movie, but it definitely made me fall in love with Bill Murray as well. So.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there is another beloved actor
Yeah.
that
Dan
thought
Aykroyd.
I loved, but after seeing his latest film, I think his best days are behind
Well,
him.
here's the
You
thing.
talking about that little Mexican boy?
No, him and his little rooster,
It's not.
his little
the
cocker,
acting so
are
much-
best days are ahead of him.
Macho?
Macho.
It's more so the directing. Like, I mean, I've
Are you
always
sure?
enjoyed his acting,
Yeah,
He directed it himself.
Yeah,
but that's my point.
that's
And I'm
true.
very disappointed because
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood is a I mean, had a great acting and directing career, and then he made this.
We should just dive right into it. We got so much to cover. We got a great story time segment. Just want to give a foreshadowing
I'm
of
ready.
what's to come. We're going to be talking about some crazy conspiracies
I'm
tonight
ready. I got a
in our
good one.
story time. Of things that we believe and even things that we think are just so far-fetched that are ridiculous, but they could be true. So we're going to talk about that tonight in our story time segment. But yes, we shall move on to one another. To none other. Crap, I screwed up the
I'm not really
segue.
sure where you're going.
I screwed up the
We're gonna
segue.
move on to one another.
One another.
You sound like Clint Eastwood in this movie.
I'm senile and an old fart. Here's our review of Cry Macho.
Clint Eastwood has proven himself a prolific actor and director, and at 91 years old, he's shown no sign of slowing down. Even great directors sometimes, however, have their share of duds. Clint Eastwood's latest film promises to put Eastwood back in the saddle, and while we do see him atop a horse wearing an iconic cowboy hat, the days of the man with no name are long gone. Starring Eastwood as Mike Bilo, an ex-bull rider forced to retire after breaking his back, Mike takes on a job for his former boss, Howard Polk, played by Dwight Yoakam, to smuggle Howard's son, who lives in Mexico with his mother, across the border and back to Howard in the U.S. Mike agrees to help, feeling he owes Howard, and makes his way to get Howard's son, Raphael, played by Eduardo Minet. Mike learns Raphael, who goes by Raffo, has become a delinquent who participates in illegal cockfights with his rooster Macho. Now Mike is tasked with keeping Raffo out of trouble and getting him back to his father, while trying to teach him there's more to being a man than being macho. This movie may honestly be Clint Eastwood's worst. While Eastwood has proven himself an incredible director in the past, there are little redeeming qualities to this film, where Eastwood retreads old ground, only worse than what he's given us before. The film has terrible writing, and dialogue is clunky and unnatural, which is fitting as the acting is also clunky and unnatural. Even Eastwood is off his game, with a performance that looks tired and weak. At 91, one can understand that Eastwood isn't capable of doing the things he once could, and that's perfectly alright. But you can't expect audiences to believe a clearly aging man is supposed to be a capable badass. The movie lacks any tension due to this problem as well, as it's unbelievable that a 91-year-old man can fight off crooked police and thugs a third his age. All conflicts end in unbelievably convenient ways so that the characters can escape. With no physical conflict, the movie needed emotional conflict twice as much, and delivers on it even less so than physical drama. Meant to be a story of two unlikely people bonding as Eastwood's character inspires and teaches Raffo what a man really is, the movie's themes are just more of what Eastwood delivered in Gran Torino, but nowhere near as good. Cry Macho as a film tries to pay homage to Eastwood's classical Western beginnings, while encompassing the themes and emotions of his later directorial career. It accomplishes none of this, instead coming off as a tired and sad imitation of Eastwood's greatest works. It's a sad delivery from such a great director. I give Cry Macho 1 out of 4 stars.
Ooh.
Oh my god!
1 out
I
of 4.
just noticed that.
It's
Wow.
What? What'd you just...
Like that was lower than I did. I did 1.5.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were going 1.
Yeah, I did 1.
I was going to go
Wow.
1.5 as well.
I did
But I was honestly, I don't know. And here's what I was going to ask you, because I don't think it is. I think it's 2 things. But one was, the question I was going to have was, we've had a string of bad movies recently.
Oh, yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah.
And so I was going to ask you, did that affect this at all? Or 2, the other question was going to be, is it just because finally, like you said with Malignant, you're tired of giving scores just haphazardly saying, well, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, and even though I'm going to rate it bad, it's not a super abysmal, which this does borderline that, I will admit. But it's like...
I was honestly more entertained by Malignant than this.
I would agree.
It was a terrible movie, but at least there were things about it that were laughably bad. This is just dull. It does not do Clint Eastwood any justice.
True.
Going from such a prolific career to this and seeing, it wasn't that long ago he just made Richard Jewell. So we know he could still direct. I mean, I know that was about 2 years ago, but still, and when you get to the point, like I said in the review, where it's this 91-year-old man trying to do things that Clint Eastwood did, even in the 90s, I mean, or even in Gran Torino, which wasn't that long ago, was more believable because he still was able to move physically on screen. You could see, okay, Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino, he's old, but he's still capable. In this movie, everything they try to make him seem like he can do, it's like, I can't buy it, because when you see him just, like you said, wide shots of him walking and he's just shuffling and hunched, and it's like, I'm supposed to believe this guy can like punch that guy or
I know. And I thought, again, that kind of goes back to the bad direction. I mean, I don't necessarily think, especially in this movie, Clint Eastwood was the worst actor.
No, he wasn't.
I don't think he was terrible. I think the role he gave himself, which again, I know he wrote the story in such a way. It's based on a novel. I haven't read the novel. I don't know what it's about, or if it's loosely based on it or not, or if it's directly taken from it. But he gave himself a character that had a little bit of yes, he breaks his back. He's an old rancher. He's basically kind of given up on just living life as he used to. He can't be a cowboy like he was before. You see that in his acting, but it's also just, okay, no, this is just an aged, old man. And unfortunately, yes, he still has, I think, some acting chops left in him, but not for this kind of role.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate to say it, but it's more for like $1 Million Baby kind of role. And that was 20 years ago.
The biggest problem for me was any lack of emotion. Like, they try to get, like it's supposed to be he's this role model to this kid and teaching him what real masculinity is, not just being macho.
No.
And it's like, it never lands. There is no emotional connection. They play a similar role to like what you've seen in Gran Torino, which is terrific and well done. So it's like, okay, when you see Clint Eastwood do something with the same theme in a previous movie that's amazing, and you see him try to reattempt it with this movie, and it's just abysmal. It's like, I can't give him any props for that.
I would agree. I would agree. Sean, what about you?
I think in every aspect of a film, this one fell short.
Yeah.
Other than, and like we kind of agreed when we were watching it, was cinematography. It did have some good cinematography. I felt like there was some beautiful scenery. There was some beautiful camera work, but not, like you said, though, they chose shots poorly to show him shuffling along with those wide-angle shots, like you said before the show, or towards the beginning of the show. Like, it's definitely something that I don't feel like flattered him at all.
Yeah.
And especially in his age, which I got nothing against the guy. There's plenty of actors that the older they get, the better they get. But they get better in certain roles. It's like, at some point, Bruce Willis isn't going to be able to be an action movie star.
Yeah.
At some point, you have
I think
you got to let it go. And no, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, you've got to let it go and give them something that respectfully they can do. And this was, I almost feel like Dwight Yoakam's character would have been a better role for Clint Eastwood. Just because he doesn't have to really do anything. And it would have been better acted. But again, Clint Eastwood's acting in this was the worst I've ever seen from him. And I've seen a lot of Clint Eastwood movies. I thought the acting in Dirty Harry was atrocious. It's just an awesome movie.
Yeah.
It's a classic, but he's not that great of an actor in that film. This was the worst. And
by far.
I don't understand the title. Maybe you can help me out on that. I don't understand where the cry part comes in the Macho.
Like battle cry, like cry Macho, like
okay.
cry havoc and unleash it's like only
let's
cry
the dog's war.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
I think that was
But again, I just didn't. There's no emotion in this film. There's nothing I feel for this kid. There's nothing I feel for Clint Eastwood and the old lady that he hooks up with. There's nothing that well, no, they didn't hook up, did they? You all tricked me.
We tricked you.
I walked away
it
for a minute.
Alludes to it.
They kind of got
kiss.
I don't know.
I was going to say that's it.
They kiss and make tortillas. They hooked up.
He goes back to her at the end of the movie. So
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
not only that, but I mean, we do get the sense that it's more of a friendship kind of. Oh,
I don't know.
no,
No.
not a friendship, but as
She wanted some Clint Eastwood.
well, I was gonna.
Yeah.
Well, so did the younger woman in it. That I thought
Yeah,
that was more
That was
unbelievable.
weird.
That was
That was
stupid.
Dude, I totally forgot about that part.
That was
just odd.
Well, really,
Like,
her character doesn't play a role after that.
No.
Like, it's just she's
It's
forgotten.
literally just to go chasing after her son. That's
yeah.
it.
No, I
and
thought
she just
I thought
plays.
she was the best actor in the movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that
creepy.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, it was creepy.
The movie starts off truthfully in the best and worst way possible. You get these vignettes of him driving in this old Chevy truck, and he's driving across the probably West Texas, East Texas, and it's his beautiful sunset or sun rays gleaming off the trees
It was
and
west
wild
I know.
horses.
It's somewhere in Texas.
But it's like
I couldn't help. He's a west or east.
Well,
That's the
like-
exact opposite.
Southwest
I thought
or
it was-
Southeast Texas.
I thought it was New Mexico or somewhere like that. I don't know. Maybe
I'm
it
pretty.
was-
No, it
was
was
Texas.
Texas.
Okay.
It just Texas is south, not
Yeah.
east or west. But
Yeah.
Texas is big. It covers east and
This
west
is
Oh,
of
I
the United
know.
States.
It's just
Texas
it's like,
is
where is
big.
he? Is he in West Texas, East Texas? We don't know.
Well, he was driving from east to west.
Honestly,
At the beginning.
And then north to south. when
yeah,
he was
then,
trying to-
there's a lot about the movie though that they really don't make.
No.
Well, no,
Like,
but that's
There's
not a
no
lot of depth.
resolution
There's no-
at all.
yeah.
Well, the intro sitting here and making me think that this is going to be a harkening back to an homage.
Yeah.
To we watched a featurette on it, and it was supposed to be this homage to not only him as a
The feature was
cowboy.
better than the movie.
Yes,
it was.
Yeah.
The trailer was better.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, we're going to get this really nice, touching story, not only between him teaching this younger boy how to be a man, but more so a kind of a send off for the old Western cowboy we
From
know from
Clint Eastwood's career, yeah.
And yet, then it starts, and you hear Dwight Yoakam speak, and you're like, what is this? And I guarantee the first lines uttered in the movie are the worst dialogue I've heard in a long time.
Dwight Yoakam was terrible.
Oh, no,
he was
yeah,
very
yeah.
bad.
It was awful, and
And again, we've
it's-
seen better
I-
acting from him before.
It's so bad.
so-
Freaking Sling Blade.
That's
man.
what I was gonna
he
say.
He is amazing in Sling Blade.
and it was a
And I don't know
far
what
cry
happened. I
from
don't
being
know what
Sling
happened.
Blade. So I don't know. I just from the outset it gave a bad taste, and then like you said, it was just boring from there on out. And even I like what you said in your review, Keith, about how it's obvious what they're trying to do. They're trying to bridge this gap not only for the story between him and this kid in the film, but also the hardened old, rugged cowboy that Clint Eastwood played in his younger years to the, okay, he's a softer man and you don't have to be so macho. And I just thought, I was like, it sucks because I know the director that Clint Eastwood can be.
Yeah.
You've got $1 Million Baby. You've got Mystic River. You've got Gran Torino, Richard Jewell, even
Unforgiven,
American Sniper.
Yeah.
I mean,
American Sniper is a great one. Yeah.
I'm just saying, you've seen
Bridges of Madison County.
Yeah, you've
I mean,
seen
God.
what he can do, and this.
Yeah, I mean he can even do romance for God's sakes. But what did he? I don't
True.
know what he was doing in this.
And I honestly, I don't know. I hope this is not his swan song, but he's 91 years old. And I hope, if anything, and I think even you hit the nail on the head when we were just talking in general about how Clint Eastwood is probably better now for not. I don't know if he can do both. I don't know if he can act and direct in the same film. It's better that he just directs and leaves it on the screen and lets the actors who
Yeah.
kind of still have it all there
Yeah, his
he
best
doesn't-
works have been.
Yeah.
in
Just
recent
directing.
in
Yeah.
recent
Yeah,
history.
yeah.
It's just, when you get a certain age, you're not physically capable anymore. And I mean, acting is exhausting on its own, let alone, and directing is exhausting on its own, let alone doing both,
I mean, there was a
honestly-
couple moments in the film where we all commented. It was like he did something or dropped something or whatever, and we're just like, yeah, they probably didn't want to do another take, so they just rolled. They rolled.
Oh,
with
he
that.
closed the shirt in the trunk, and then he looks at it and just goes like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
and
there's
it
a
was
shirt sticking out of
and
the
it was
trunk.
the best acting in the film because I think it was real. He saw it and he was just like, "Screw it, we're leaving it."
Yeah,
Yeah.
just gonna leave
Yeah.
it dangling there, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, they probably knew he couldn't open and close that trunk again. That took
Yeah.
everything out of him.
They probably had to go take a nap. After that, it was probably so much
Yeah,
energy.
it's like, yeah, it's Clint's nap time.
Well, and another thing, again, something you alluded to in the review is just there was no tension. Every single time there was some kind of
Yeah.
conflict, it was literally either resolved in the same scene or the
Yep.
very next one.
Yep.
There was never a moment of, oh crap, they're not going to
Well, and-
escape
and again,
this.
it's
it was like a Pure Flix movie.
Yes. But it's like Sean said when we were watching the movies, like they know realistically he can't get into like these big bar fights and stuff like he would
No.
like back in the Dollar Trilogy days.
So there was always somebody that shows up and
they
takes
had
over, or the rooster takes over.
they had to have some convenient way for them to get out of trouble each time because he's 91.
every time the federales were
Oh,
on to
that-
them,
that
I'm going to
freaking-
turn off the
I'm
road.
gonna
Hold
veer
on
off
tight.
the road here, and they're not going to see our dust trail.
Not only that,
It
but
wasn't
it's
even
literally-
a sharp
He said,
turn, it
"Hang
just
on
hang
tight,"
on
and he
tight.
veered left.
Yeah,
I'm
Just
like,
a slight.
yeah. It was like he was merging onto the Gene Snyder. Like it wasn't like he was doing any aggressive maneuvers.
well, I don't know.
or
With
anything.
him being 91, it might have been.
He
It
probably
might have broke a
the
hip.
Gene Snyder
But the
to kill
thing
him.
was, it wasn't like he sped up and then kept
No.
going down once he veered left. He literally, it's like he got off the Gene Snyder exit and then just
Yes.
sat at the end of the ramp. It's like no, like they can't see
They
you
couldn't
standing at
see
the end
him
of the
there.
ramp. Like yeah,
in the middle of the desert. There's no trees or
terrible.
nothing to hide behind.
it's a flat,
It's like-
flat desert. They were next to like some type
And
of
then
rock or
and then the
whatever, so-
federales weren't even chasing him for the reasons.
Honestly,
they thought.
the fact that they kept saying that too, every time it's like, "Oh no, the federales." And I'm just like, can you just say the police?
police.
Yeah, it's like you
the
are
Mexican
American.
police.
Yeah, it's like you're a 91-year-old white American. Why are you calling them the federales?
Federales. And then like
Yeah.
literally the scene where he pulls up and he's like, "There's a shop. I'm gonna go check it out."
Yeah.
And then he comes out with some like Mexican garb that is like the most generic cliche Mexican garb.
Well, I
And I'm
think
like,
that was the.
I think it was a joke.
No, well, that
It
was
them
them
being
doing the
humorous.
throwback to the Dollars trilogy, like the poncho and the
Yes.
hat, because
Yeah.
he wore that stuff. And I think that was them trying to be like, see, here's Clint Eastwood. He's still a cowboy. And it's
Yeah.
like, no,
even the
he's
way
not.
it played off or
did-
transitioned from
shoulda
scene
had
to
that,
scene.
Should have had that
Bolo
that
tie.
metal plate that he wears underneath.
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah.
You know, in the
yes.
in the movie he wears like the front of the door of a God dang, a potbelly stove, and it
So
makes a
like-
bulletproof
Yes.
vest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
been funny if he had that.
I don't know. I just felt like from beginning to end, and honestly, just I didn't care at all the whole movie.
No.
I never once actually got invested in
He
the
learned
characters.
Spanish really quick though. You got to give him that.
Yes, yeah,
did.
Yep. And that was
He went
the
into
no-
Mexico not speaking a lick of Spanish, and like a week later, he came out understanding everything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just shows you got to live in the culture. You know, you just got to entrench
You
yourself.
don't need no Rosetta Stone. You
Yeah, it's
just
so
need
bad.
to flip tortillas with a
with a
with
an
an
older
old Mexican woman.
an old Mexican widow, and she'll
Yeah.
teach you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys,
Love can do
Terrible
anything.
movie.
do not watch it.
Don't watch it.
Can we say it's a hard pass?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
So
Yep.
here's the question. And I know we haven't fully decided yet, but do we know what we're reviewing next week?
I haven't
'Cause
even looked to see what's coming
I
out.
thought
Well,
Dune
honestly.
or no.
Not
no,
Dune.
no.
The biggest movie coming out on Friday,
Yeah.
and it's not one I'm looking forward to, but it is a big one.
Oh,
is
gosh.
Venom. Let There Be Carnage.
I think we have to. We reviewed the first.
we did review the first,
and I haven't
Yeah.
even seen the first
Here's
since
the
we
thing.
reviewed it. It's
I-
got to be better
I have-
than Cry Macho.
I have no faith in this movie, but I have this little kernel of hope that I know is not going to go anywhere. But it is Andy Serkis, and granted, his Jungle Book movie on Netflix was not good either, so this probably still won't be. But I'm hoping maybe because Andy Serkis is a legitimately creative person, we might get something fun out of this. But we'll see.
Here's the thing. Based on the trailer, I'm going to ask you all, do you think that at least this time they're kind of letting go and just going to have fun with it?
I think so. I think there's a lot more. They definitely try, and a lot of the jokes were kind of lame, but they did try for a lot more humor with him, like now having to live with Venom as like this parasite, and like their banter back and forth in the trailers. Some of that was pretty good, like when he punched the guy in the car or whatever. Like that was
Yeah.
actually legitimately funny.
Yeah.
So
And the thing is I don't remember really knocking the first one too hard. I've actually watched it
wasn't
recently,
terrible.
and I
It
didn't
wasn't,
think it
yeah.
was that bad.
I don't
thought
think
it was.
I think as far as knowing that it wasn't a Marvel film,
I think
and
I
it
gave
was
it
also
like
not
2.5,
attached to DC.
maybe.
I would
Like,
agree.
I
I
didn't
would
think
agree
it
with
was-
that.
yeah, I think I gave it
It was
2.5.
fun. I would say it was fun.
I think we could check it out on our website and find
I didn't
out what
hate
we
the
gave
first
it.
Venom. I mean, it was very
The end,
cliche
the
and
end fight scene
stereotypical.
was the worst part
Yeah.
of the movie for me
Yeah.
because it was just
Don't
so
spoil
close.
it because I've actually not seen the first one yet.
Yes, you have.
No, I haven't.
No, he didn't.
I never
go with
went
us.
and
It was
saw
only
it.
me and you. I
Really?
remember- yeah.
I
Oh.
never went and see it.
I don't.
Okay.
I think that was one of the nights he abandoned us.
Are you sure?
I don't know. There was only one night that I truly abandoned you all, and that was Aquaman. And I
That's
still
true.
haven't seen Aquaman
Wow.
either. There's a lot.
Aquaman was better than Venom.
But apparently too, that was the thing. We thought Venom was going to be at least because it had no attachment to DC at all. It was still Sony.
Yeah.
That
Well,
maybe.
Venom's Marvel.
Well, yeah, no, but Marvel doesn't make the. I
No,
thought
they
Sony
don't. But you
distributes
said
it.
DC. That's why I was confused there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Yeah,
I
my
didn't
bad.
even
My
catch
bad.
that he
My
said
bad.
it, but
yeah,
yeah.
my bad.
But yeah.
But it's like no, I
No, Marvel Studios
because it
doesn't
wasn't
make
attached
Venom.
to any Marvel film.
It's Sony
It was
only.
kind of questionable.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, we
Well,
were also, I think, looking forward to maybe it being darker
There's
than
the
any Marvel
rumor,
film.
and I think I kind of have a feeling of what Sony and Marvel are doing here because there's the rumor that they're now going to kind of merge in a way, and I think that's where the multiverse comes in because Sony wants to have like a movie where Venom and Tom Holland and Spider-Man are able to fight, but at the same time Marvel like, well, we still want that to kind of be that because it's not that good. So I think that like just like with
They're warming
Michael
up.
Keaton appears in the trailer for Morbius and people are like, oh, like that's Vulture in
Vulture, yeah.
Morbius, but it's not a Marvel movie. So I think that's how they're going to kind of do that.
Disney's letting out a little bit of rope.
I think they're like, okay, look, because of the multiverse, you can do this, but it's still not main MCU.
They're trying
so.
again. They're trying to play nice with Sony to be
'cause
like,
they wanna
see,
keep
we're
Spider-Man.
both exactly.
It's
And,
money. It's money for both of them.
It is,
Yeah.
and especially after the whole fiasco with Tom Holland way back in the day, trying to. They thought that Sony
Trying
was
to get them
not
together
Yeah,
and all that,
yeah.
yeah.
But in fact, we got some news
We
about.
do. We have a bunch of news.
We
about
got a bunch of
Disney.
news, but Disney
they're
specifically.
all in the headlines today.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe we should we move on to our headline?
I think we
Yeah,
should.
go for it.
Let's roll that big, beautiful open. Love it.
Oh, he's
Oh, gosh.
he's
That's
clicking.
what
I've
it
got the
is.
dog
I was doing
upset.
I didn't
Look
know
at that.
she freaked
That
out.
she did.
Dang.
That's what it is
I was
each
just
week.
like,
You just triggered
Well,
the
I don't
dog.
normally click like that.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is the first week I
Oh,
did
she
it.
as soon
She-
as you do it,
yeah.
she turns.
When I do that, she knows.
Yeah.
She was like,
Come here, pup.
she
didn't know which way to go.
No,
She knows. She
Oh,
knows who
man.
her papa is. That's right, pup. No,
So,
we do have some news.
Disney's getting beat up left and right this week, apparently.
Well, I'm
so.
gonna jump down to. I don't know if y'all see it. You're the third headline. We're gonna talk about that one first.
Okay.
Okay.
Because that
well,
one we just kind of segued into it, but it makes the most sense.
I get it. I mean,
that was late breaking.
Late break.
it kind of was, and I mean, Disney being beat up left and right, they had to come out and kind of admit a fault this week. Just Sean, you
bit.
found the article, you want to
Little bit.
share it?
No, yeah, it's just Disney CEO Bob Chapek. No, he come out and I wouldn't say he admitted a fault, but he does admit that
not so
the
many
contracts that they have had for the last 3 or 4 years were quite different than what they're going to have moving forward with a post-pandemic world that we live in. But yeah, so the deal with Scarlett Joe, we've talked about it like 1,000 times on the show.
Yep.
But we're going to talk about it one more time.
We have to because it
Um,
continues to be in the headlines.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can't,
But
you know.
it sounds like she might actually get paid.
What?
Some more money? I mean, she already made $21 million. She's going to get a little bit more.
How greedy of her.
They are definitely saying that they're going to live up to their contract that they signed with her. It has never changed. They never changed it, so obviously they have to honor that and pay her accordingly. And they say that, well, he says they're going to do that.
They didn't necessarily say that though. And this is where I take qualms with it because during the conference, he does this little manager dance, which is what CEOs are often famous
that's what
for
they're
anyway.
put in charge to do.
Of course they are, because they don't want to nail down any specifics. He alludes to the policy being changed in the future, but because of the ongoing lawsuit, I don't think he mentions specifically that ScarJo or any he mentions that was the instance in the lawsuit that she brought is what made them kind of reconsider the
Stated that
negotiations.
a lot of these contracts were made, because of the nature of filming takes, sometimes more than even a year. He said a lot of these contracts were made 3 or 4 years ago. So,
Well, he says right at the end, he says, we will compensate them fairly per the terms of the contract that they agreed to with us.
But that's future tense. And that also does not clarify if the negotiations are set in stone.
yeah, he
because
doesn't-
to me, that's the whole question of her lawsuit anyway, has been, okay, yes, I was fine with the contract we made, but then the times changed, you have a pandemic, and then you changed the rules, and I wanted to renegotiate, and then you didn't even want to come to the table. And you said you got to take it or leave it. And so, of course, I had to take it, and she did, and then she filed the lawsuit.
Yeah.
Now Disney's saying, you know what? We value our actors and our actresses, our talent is
talent, yeah.
important to us. And we want to make sure we keep them happy. So we're going to make sure that we keep these channels open. It's very cryptic in the way he talks, but there's no guarantee at all.
I think
this
what
is going to
he's-
set forth a precedent that they're going to make sure these changes take place. I think this is just saving face in the public.
I mean, I do think they are, like they said, like restructuring contracts. I do think, like he said, these contracts were made 4 or 5 years ago, and he never came out and said we were wrong or that we're going. Like,
No,
he never,
no. He
basically,
never says her name either.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
never
he
states
no, he
directly that they're going to pay her, but he does say we do have to change how we do contracts because of this, and I think the lawsuit obviously is because of that, like a result of that. They said, well, we don't want to get sued in the future, so we will have to change how we do contracts. But it is kind of like just him saying, look, we know that things change, we have to do things a little bit differently, and he just kind of leaves it at that.
Of course. And again, like you said, as a good businessman would. Because ultimately what he's wanting to do is to secure that I mean, look, I have no qualms with Disney wanting to make its money. Of course they are. They are a business. But so is Johansson, and that's rightfully what she brought up back in July.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, okay, now that this has been brought to the forefront, and we were even kind of talking about it off mic before the show, it's like, so now you have an A-list actor who has brought this to the forefront, and even for a while there were grumblings whether Emma Stone would join in, or even Rock and Emma, or, oh gosh, I'm forgetting. Emily Blunt would join in from Jungle Cruise, and none of them did. But it's like, here you have this one star who kind of put their neck out on the line and said, no, I'm not going to let this stand. I am going to file the lawsuit. And now it's, after a lot of mudslinging in the public, you now have Disney at least admitting to them, okay, it's fair.
There may be changes we need to make.
We'll take a look at this in the future.
I think it's like,
that's all they're admitting.
Maybe
here.
we shouldn't, a contract that was made 5 years ago that we changed the terms for. Maybe that should be renegotiated.
I think they're going to renegotiate. I mean, I think they're going to.
I think they're going to let the lawsuit play out.
Her.
I think they're going to let the lawsuit play out, and they're going to try to settle out of court. They do not want this to be any more public than it already has.
I think they'll try to
But
settle out of court
one way or another. She'll get something out of it. That's what I'm saying.
But it also, I think, firmly
they're covering their
cements,
butt for the future.
Yes, exactly. And that's all this was. This was a safe PR stunt, a safe face PR stunt for the future. And they also kind of, in this sentence, and the article kind of references this, it's their way of also saying, no, we're doubling down on this release structure. We plan on having smaller releases be streaming only, and we'll negotiate according to that. But ultimately, we're going to have our tentpole blockbusters carry the weight of the theatrical runs, then come out on streaming platforms.
Disney's been
and we'll negotiate according to that.
He calls like what they're doing right now. He's like, it's the middle ground. Yeah. We're in the middle position where we're trying to do. He says we're trying to do right by the talent. I think the talent's trying to do right by us.
Yeah.
Which is that's the nice way of not calling that person out. Or saying anything bad about her.
After calling her greedy for 20 million.
Yeah. Saying we're all just trying to do the right thing.
Right.
But
yeah, Disney and especially Chapek have been very firm on their stance with Disney Plus. So yeah, they're not planning on changing release strategies other than, maybe going to the 45-day window now that Shang-Chi proved that that's a legitimate way to make money, but they're still very devoted to Disney Plus. So
well, and I think you just got to give ScarJo credit because ultimately she's holding their feet to the fire.
That somebody had
and if
the backbone to stand
have.
up and say, hey, it's not right. You can't just, go back on a contract. I know things change, but then we need to renegotiate.
Right.
You can't just tough luck. I mean,
well, exactly. And if she wouldn't have raised hell about it and she wouldn't have pushed the lawsuit, and then you wouldn't have had others who considered it or at least had some grumblings as well. I honestly don't. I do think that if it would not have gotten in the public eye the way it did, this quietly would have been dismissed.
They would have shuffled,
and they would have never been pushed into this corner. And we still don't know. I mean, I think that's still the outcome that we have to hold them to. Because, and I say this in terms of if I've got some kind of deal with Disney, and most people will be like, who cares about a bunch of millionaire celebrities? And I would agree. But if you're not fighting on their behalf, you're fighting on behalf of Disney.
Yeah.
And to me, it really comes down to the fair question is, are they getting what they originally set out to get based on their contract?
It's like, okay, you could say ScarJo's greedy, but is Disney not being greedy? And they stand to gain way more money. So it's really about, you wouldn't want your employer to cheat you, so you shouldn't be okay with someone else's employer doing it to them, regardless of how much money they're making. But who I do think, The Rock didn't, Emily Blunt didn't, Emma Stone didn't, but I think who would have joined ScarJo in the lawsuit, had it gone to Disney Plus? Simu Liu. because he's been
Yeah.
pretty outspoken against Disney a few times himself, and he's actually someone who he it's just anything you see him tweet, he is not abashed of giving his opinion, and it may have cost them their premiere, like being able to premiere the movie in China. In fact, I mean, it pretty much seems like it has.
It seems so, and I would agree with you. It's like it seems like he's pretty, stern.
He's
on
not
his thoughts and his
he's
opinions.
unabashed about giving his opinion when he.
Which here's the thing, I'm okay with that as long as I think there is a little bit of this double standard going on in the sense that again, and I'm surprised, and I think the more in which he, depending on what kind of side he's on and stands firmly with. Or I guess
think
the more he decides to dig in.
This isn't a
I
knock
think
against him, but in general, I think he's on his own side. I mean, because he does seem to kind of go with whatever is benefiting him. And I'm not I don't mean that in a bad way, because I mean a lot of people are like that. They're obviously not going to do something that goes against you, but
but he's even said he sent out a tweet about the Chinese people, and he was like trying to basically say it's not their fault that it's not being shown there. It's obviously the government.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, he's saying, no. He's like he's tried to play this double.
he plays both sides. Yeah.
He does. He tries to play both sides in the sense of saying, but I also think if you're going to look for ways to throw rocks or ways to find common ground, you can find those arguments easily. And I'm just like, well, it's an easy shortcut way of saying
Again,
I have my opinions, but I
because
may not voice them
He's
if I
for
feel
himself,
pressured.
and he's covering his own butt. He's
Yeah.
like, listen, I have opinions about. Obviously, with his family having come from China, I know he wasn't born there himself, but I mean. He knows.
Said
I
he
mean,
was
he's
born in
not
Canada,
Canadian.
is that what-
Yeah. He's not ignorant to what's going on there, but at the same time, he also knows that Hollywood's his bread and butter. So there's that fine line of
There's
yes
a lot of
and
money
no.
in China too, though. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
I would want my movie to air there if it possibly
But this
could.
this is where I think it's interesting because that is the dilemma that's going on. It's banned in one of the largest markets with regard to Hollywood, especially who they've been pandering to over the last several years.
Yeah.
Been getting more and more dollars there, and yet you also have a Chinese cultural film or a culturally Chinese heavy laden film, and yet your main actor here is of Chinese descent. And so do you bash him? Because then it looks like you're bashing someone who is, you can't go after because of their race. Look like a racist.
I don't know
So
who's
I think Disney.
bashing him.
No. I'm saying, but Disney doesn't have the option of canceling him and saying, well, we're standing with China,
don't
the
think he's-
country, over
true,
our own
True.
actor
But I
in
don't
our
think
film.
he said anything really worth canceling him over anyway, in
Not
my
yet.
opinion. But I mean,
no, but the thing, okay, for instance, I would agree, but it wouldn't surprise me. For instance, one of the things that offended China was that he mentioned a drink that he grew up with that came from Hong Kong. Well, China didn't like that because, again,
came from
they
Hong
just
Kong,
basically rushed in and took over Hong Kong against their will, and they don't like free people. They don't like the free initiative that Hong Kong fought through.
He's literally not said anything offensive, but of course, because it doesn't go within the
Well, you don't have
indoctrination that China
You really
likes
don't
to
have
spew.
to. I mean, good Lord, all John Cena said was that Taiwan was a country.
Yes.
And that was
that's
enough.
what I'm saying.
Yes.
That was
anything
enough to offend
anything that
them.
does not promote the propaganda China tries to instill in its people,
Yeah.
Well,
they automatically are against.
He did
so.
mention in an interview that he said my family fled communist China
Yeah.
because they didn't want us to starve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course that upset them
And
too.
and that's
even
why
though it's the truth.
and that's why the movie's banned. And I'm like, you
So-
know what?
But
so
again,
be it.
Does that
Hollywood
not
needs
put Disney in? Here's the thing: would Disney not fight every tooth and nail to get a movie released and cut their movie and edit their movie?
Oh, yeah.
so that it would fit the censorship.
they want that money.
from China because they want that money.
Yep.
But they won't do it to this film because the main lead and the cultural undertones of the film
Well,
are Chinese.
Andy's already kind of insinuated that the film was an experiment, or that the way they were releasing it was
True.
experimental.
So then
and
it gets- yeah.
so they're already kind of on thin ice when it comes to messing with this film.
It's one of those
Just
things
culturally.
where
yeah.
I personally feel like Hollywood shouldn't pander to China anyway. So yes,
Agreed.
I understand you want that money because that is there's about a third of the market in global sales.
Have the Marvel movies performed well in
Yes.
China?
yeah.
But what about, like, let's say Mulan? Did Mulan do
No,
any?
in
No.
fact, they
Some
ridicule a
movies
lot
about China don't do good in China.
Well, kind of one of the funny
China
things
typically
about
takes offense to them.
Yeah.
Well, one of the funny things about this is that obviously, even though it's not officially released in China, there's a lot of Chinese people who have seen this movie, and because of the director and his descent and or his his cultural background of being Chinese, they felt that this was actually much more culturally Chinese than Mulan was.
I've seen
a
lot
so
of
the Chinese people who
viewers.
have actually seen this film praise it over Mulan for that reason. So it's kind of interesting that you even have people in the country who have seen it secretly against the government's wishes, and they praise it.
Well, again, because it's not about the movie actually being offensive or getting the culture wrong.
Of
It's
course.
because it doesn't promote the propaganda.
Well,
China
that's it. That's
believes
just
should.
it. It's not offensive to the Chinese. It's offensive to their government.
Yes.
And the government and the people are completely
and it's
different.
not. The film isn't itself. It's the actor in the film.
Yeah.
But this is the crazy propaganda that a dictatorish, that a tyrannical government would go to. They want to make sure that every part of the messaging is controlled. And if you're against that messaging, then you're not going to get and this is why I think this is a huge rift, because only with a film like this will you not have Disney or America, the American Hollywood establishment, trying to fight to get a movie released in China or editing it in such a way that it will be released in that country to get more dollars. They won't do that because then they know the backlash on the back end against the movie itself and the stars and the people who were part of the filmmaking process. And so it is weird to see this kind of interesting dynamic of, yes, in that way, I think you do have all these different races and cultural backgrounds being kind of risen up above the normal establishment, credos and establishment politics behind the scenes with regards to releasing in certain areas, because they can't fight that battle. So they almost have to take the loss. And my question is, if you're going to take the loss on that front, then why don't you take the loss on the front of other films and their artistic expression? Why are you willing to allow certain films to either be edited or writing to be changed and not, just so it can release in a market to get more money at the sake of our own principles and our own values? We should not allow that.
Or even, at the sake of someone like Simu, it's like, okay, obviously someone who is working in America, who's now Chinese America, originate from Canada or Chinese Canadian. He may not be a citizen in America yet. I really don't know. But anyway, someone who actually does eschew American values. It's like, why would you toss him to the side just for the sake of the money in China? And I mean, and production companies are happy to do that because they want that money, and that's what bugs me. It's like, if you can get released in China, I don't mind because I understand you want that money, but you shouldn't
certain ones,
yes,
they've proven in this instance they're